Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. Today we are going to be taking a look at issue 68 of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest magazine, the Partworks publication from Hachette Publishing in association with Games Workshop, which comes out every week priced at $7.99. As a subscriber, I get 4 issues once a month in a bundle, and this is the second issue from my current bundle. The idea of this magazine is it introduces you to Warhammer 40,000 by giving you rules, scenarios, and every issue you get either hobby supplies such as paints and brushes, or you get plastic miniatures. The plastic miniatures are normally for building armies, but sometimes you also get terrain, and terrain is what we are getting with issue 68. What we are actually getting is a Haemotrope Reactor, and this isn't actually the first time we've had one of these, this is the second that we have got. And what this magazine tends to do, it tends to give you everything you would get if you were to buy a product at retail. So because Haemotrope Reactors come in a set of 2, if you buy a box set of Haemotrope Reactors you get 2 in the box, they've given you 2 with the magazine, they've just spaced it out over 2 issues. So let's take a quick look at the frame. And as you can see, it's been cast in brown plastic, the same as all of the other Warhammer 40,000 Conquest terrain. It's a good piece of kit, it's a decent size, it's actually pretty large, good for obstructing terrain, obstructing line of sight, and it is part of the Sector Mechanicus range, which means it is compatible with loads of the other terrain that you have got with your subscription so far. You can actually make great big pipework systems, it works with the other alchemite stacks and everything else that we have had up till now. So you're in a position now where you can make quite a good sized battlefield with lots of cool interconnecting pipeworks that break up movement and line of sight and adds interest to your games. I saw an article the other day that was complaining about the range of a lot of attacks in Warhammer 40,000, and that's exactly why you need a lot of terrain. You want to be able to break up those line of sights, you want to be able to hide. So this is a good addition. It's a little bit disappointing to get something that we've had before. I've said this before, that with the Partworks magazine, part of the fun of it is the excitement of getting something new every week. But in this case, we're getting something that we have had before. But it is useful, and it does make sense that if you were to buy these in a shop, you'd get 2, so it makes sense they would actually give you 2 over the course of the subscription as well. Also, it works out really good value. A box set of the Haemotrope Reactors actually comes in at $27.50 if you were to go into a Warhammer store and buy one off the shelf. So that's £13.75 per frame. That being the case, paying $7.99 for this magazine and getting 1 Haemotrope Reactor means you are making a saving of £5.76 over retail. Now, of course, you could go online and get discounts, but even then, you might have to add postage back on. Most places have like a threshold where they introduce free shipping, but you have to spend quite a bit to get those thresholds. So overall, this is a decent saving over retail. And of course, it means you only get 1 Haemotrope, which might be all you need. You may not want to, or you may already have a whole bunch and you just want 1 more to complete some piece of terrain that you're working on. So because we've had a reactor before, a lot of this magazine is going to be a bit repetitive. There's going to be a lot of redundancy because there's going to be the same build instructions we've had before. And when they've given us multiple pieces of terrain in the past, like the Munitorum containers early on, they gave different painting guides. Because this is a reactor and it's supposed to be part of a modular kit, I'm not expecting them to do anything different with the painting either. So if there is a painting guide in here, it's probably going to be largely the same as one we've seen before. But let's find out. So first of all, we have the Annals of the Space Wolves. Make sure you read that correctly. So yeah, the magazine always starts with a bit of fluff. We're now covering all kinds of different things, not just Ultramarines and Death Guard. Iron Hand's successor chapters. Very useful for painting guides because you can see the pauldrons, the insignias. You get a full front view of the armor. Very useful for painters. And then we've got a bit on Harlequins here, and right there in the image, that is a Harlequin Solitaire, which people who follow my Blackstone Fortress content may recognize that particular character because there were rules introduced recently in Blackstone Fortress to run a solitaire as a solo character, just going through the Blackstone Fortress, causing mass devastation because they are brutal, lethal warriors. So we have a little bit on the masks, and then a showcase. Let's bring this a little closer. So we've got a troop of players of the Mask of the Midnight Sorrow, Shadowseer, Death Jester, and there is the solitaire miniature that they recommend you use for Blackstone Fortress. And then we have a bit of background fluff on the Silver Templars, and in particular, Lieutenant or Lieutenant Keltos. Now, the Silver Templars were invented for Conquest magazine. They pretty much didn't exist before, but they were introduced for the magazine, and they've gradually built on the history of them. They provided a codex a while back, which if you saw my review of that, I wasn't particularly impressed with that. And there is a forthcoming painting guide that is an additional purchase on top of your subscription. You get a painting guide, some Silver Templar transfers, some miniatures, some paints, and it's a really good deal. Now, when I first found out about it, I was kind of like, well, I'm not really interested in the Silver Templars. I'm not really fussed whether I will or won't receive it, because I wasn't entirely sure whether I was going to get that, because I had complained to the company previously about being sent stuff that I hadn't specifically asked for. But I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought it would be interesting to show it on the channel, and the painting guide, it could be useful for anything in silver armor, not just Silver Templars, obviously. So I thought I'd try and contact them, and I had a run-in with Hachette Publishing's customer services, which are less than stellar. If you phone them up, I phoned them up 4 different times, and on each occasion I was kept on hold for 5 minutes before being disconnected by the automated phone service, which was incredibly annoying. It didn't just say there's no one in the office, call back later. It kept you on hold for 5 minutes, racking up a phone bill, and then disconnected you. I also sent 4 emails. I sent 2 to one email address, didn't get a response. Sent an email to a different email address, didn't get a response. And then finally, I sent an email which I labeled as customer complaint, because I was pretty angry at that point. And I finally got a response saying that I would be receiving this particular product. So all's well that ends well, but it was incredibly infuriating, and I don't know if other people have had similar experiences with the Hachette Publishing customers department, but yeah, it was not a good experience all round. But I digress. Let's move on. Okay, we have our build guide. Like I say, this is somewhat redundant if you're a subscriber, but they have to include it because some people might just pick up odd issues, and you need the build instructions. And then we are into the painting guide, and it does look like we are getting the standard paint it silver, wash it with Nuln Oil, give it a dry brush, which they've used for the other terrain elements. And this does look to be exactly the same painting guide that they included previously, which is a shame. I understand why they've done it, but it is a lot of duplicate content in this particular issue. Apart from that new bit of fluff, everything else we've seen before. The only thing they've done is they've added in the instructions on painting the plasma, because when we got the first reactor, they hadn't given instructions on how to paint the plasma, so they did up to that stage, and then they said we'll come back to it later. Then in a subsequent issue, they gave the paints for painting plasma, and then they went back and added that to the reactor. And now we're getting this second reactor, and they've combined those 2 paint guides together. And then we are into a mission, Plasma Overload. And we've got choose your boards. They're not giving you any specific boards to use. They've just told you that has to be the 2 reactors on the board, and they've given you the deployment zones. For the armies, they're giving you a 40 power rating with no restrictions on what you can take. So we are now completely into build your own army territory here. There's no restrictions, there's no limitations. You just 40 power points, pick what you want. And the mission itself, what is it? Dielheim's Haemotrope Reactors are well guarded. The Death Guard strike force will have to hit hard and fast, sabotaging the regulators, before the Ultramarines can call in airstrikes or reinforcements to assist them. Right, so what are the conditions then? Both players gain 3 victory points for each objective they control at the end of the game, so there's 2 objectives, the 2 reactors. The first player to eliminate an enemy unit scores a victory point, slaying the enemy warlord earns a victory point, and the game lasts for 5 battle rounds. Pretty straightforward. It's another take and hold the objective mission. They've done so many of those now. There have been so many missions in Conquest where there's X number of objectives on the board. Move out, hold those objectives, keep hold of them till the end of the game. Nothing particularly new there. But let's see, because that is the end of the magazine. So let's see what's coming up next. So next, issue 69. I'm looking forward to this one because it's a very cool Plague Marine champion with a cute Nurgling. And then in issue 70, more paints. And finally, 70 issues in, they give us a pot of white paint. Would have expected that somewhat earlier. And Cadian Flesh Tang. Again, that's something else I would have expected a little bit earlier. Not good value, 2 pots of paint, which is a bit of a shame. It's always a shame to see when the value's down, but the value has been up considerably on the last few issues. The Scout frame was good value, the Haemotrope Reactors pretty decent value, and that's a pretty expensive Champion Marine miniature. So yeah, it balances out. It all balances out in the wash, but we will look at that another time. For now, what I always do at the end of these videos, I do a little running total. It is the cost of subscribing to the magazine at the cover price versus the cost of purchasing all of the products that come with the magazine at full retail price. So I'm not taking into account any discounts, but I'm also not taking into account any value of the magazine itself and any subscriber gifts, which hopefully some people will find useful. Overall, this isn't a great issue for me. The value's okay. I like the reactor. It's a really nice piece of terrain. The magazine itself is a bit disappointing. It's a lot of recycled content and a scenario that isn't really anything new or interesting. But, you know, you can't have it all, can you? That is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have liked this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you have really liked the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.